Welcome to the Museum of Aquarium and Pet History. Now you're probably wondering, where are you, Gary? I'm not in the Zoo Med building, and I'm not in building number 1, which has all the incredible artifacts behind me. I am in the new offices for the new building, the new museum building. And that's why there's a little bit of an echo here. We don't have enough pictures on the wall yet, but it's nice because it's only a minute from Zoo Med, so we can walk over here and film, which really helps us out. So today I'm going to talk about 2 items, rare items I have never seen before. There's a little bit of a backstory to them that I will tell you once I get into them, but they're not common, and well, let's just get into it. Okay, the first one is this beautiful little bird cage made of brass. It is got a bent and missing little foot. You could tell some of the wires are bent, but the little glass seed guard actually came in intact. Now you're probably wondering, well, why did the cage come in so bent up? You could also see that the bird feeders down here are completely smashed and broken. That's because the person sent it with no packing material. Basically just a couple pieces of paper stuck inside this very cheesy box, sent by the US Postal Service, which of course it's banged up here, but it's not the US Postal Service's fault. That's the fault of the people that packed it. They use no bubble wrap, they use nothing. And normally with feeders, you'll bubble wrap them and put them in their own little box inside of the cage with paper in it. But they didn't do that. But anyways, this cage is Art Deco, 1930s, made in Germany, probably from Warner Keller or George Hertz. And then it was imported by Schoemann Mayer of Brooklyn, New York. And I had to look this up because I thought, well, it's a cute little cage, but it's not a transport cage. And they call it a Finch cage. Now, it only appeared in 2 issues of their catalog. So what I'm thinking is it wasn't very popular, because even for finches, this cage is very small. Even if you had like 1 zebra finch, this cage is pretty small. So the cage didn't last long, which is that's why it's rare. But it's got these little brass finials. It's just a charming little cage, actually. And we're going to have to send it to the restore to get it fixed. But that's a Schoemann and Mayer cage out of New York, imported from Germany. And very cool, but tragic that they actually packed it so poorly. So that's number 1. Number 2 is an even rarer cage. Now, this is Victorian. Of course, you could tell it's got the bent wires. The bent wires go through the tubular thing right here. It's got the, this is one way you could tell if it's really a rare old cage. You've got basically a tapered bird perch with brass on the ends that actually hooks into the wire there. They stopped doing this like in about the 1870s, 1880s. So it's very seldom that you see these or find these even left in some of the cages. These are for very old cages. Now, one of the ways that I tell what type of cage it is, sometimes you can tell by the feeders, but not always, because sometimes they put the wrong feeders with it. But you can usually tell by this. This will kind of give me an indication, and the swing will give me an indication, and sometimes the bent in the wire will give me an indication of who made this. And the reason this is really cool is that it was made by Gunther, who is a German person, and he made bird cages in Germany, and he was friends with Charles and Henry Reich. Now the Reichs, along with Louis, were 2 of the biggest importers of mammals and canary birds in the United States. And so the Reichs contacted Gulab in Germany and says, hey, do you want to come over to America and basically make bird cages for us? And he said, sure, why not? So he came over and he manufactured for maybe about 10 years these bird cages. They're not common at all. And so it is a really rare cage. The interesting thing about it, and this is the one thing that I really love with the museum here, our new project, is that I get people that contact me and say, hey, I'm the great-great-granddaughter or grandson of some famous historical pet person. I've had that with Henry Bishop. I had the great-great-granddaughter of Henry Bishop contact us, and I've had the great-great-grandson of Gulab contact us. Gulab Gunther, excuse me, Mr. Gunther. And he told me that he had a painting on his wall of Gulab, Mr. Gunther. And so I'll show you here in the video the painting at the end. But it was just really interesting. He said, thank you so much for keeping the history alive. And I think I talked about these cages when I did the Victorian birdcage video, which is one of our most popular videos. So that's probably where he heard us talk about his great-great-grandfather. Now, another way that I thought that this was a Gulab or Gunther cage was the feeders. And again, here's tragedy number 2, same week. You could see they're broken. You can see pieces over here, broken. But at the bottom is GG. And there's the feeders. So when I saw the feeders and I saw this part of the cage, I knew this is probably a Gunther cage. And sure enough, it is a Gunther cage. We don't have a catalog for it, but we have lots of pictures of different Gunther cages. So I could tell by the top here and the wires that it is in fact a Gunther cage. A very, very rare cage. So that's pretty much all I have for today. I thank you for coming again, and hope you guys have a wonderful week. And again, I will see you next week.